Hi, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing The River Has Roots by Amal El-Mohtar. In case any of you don't know, Amal El-Mohtar is half of the author duo responsible for the wildly popular This Is How You Lose the Time War, alongside the author Max Gladstone. And The River Has Roots is Amal's solo debut as an author. In the small town of Thistleford, on the edge of Faerie, dwells the mysterious Hawthorne family. There they tend and harvest the enchanted willows and honor an ancient compact to sing to them in thanks for their magic, none more devotedly than the family's latest daughters, Esther and Isabel, who cherish each other as much as they cherish the ancient trees. But when Esther rejects a forceful suitor in favor of a lover from the land of Faerie, not only the sisters' bond, but also their lives will be at risk. One thing I noticed right away when I started this was how metaphorical and beautiful the writing was. For example, in chapter 1, we're kind of starting this story in the style of a vignette, and the narrator is explaining this small town to us, as well as the river and kind of like the relationship between the small town and Faerie. They're kind of like neighboring places. And this quote in like literally on like page 2 or 3 just immediately told me what to expect from the writing here. There was a time when grammar was wild, when it shifted shapes and unleashed new forms out of old. Grammar, like gramarye, like grimoire. What is magic but a change in the world? What is a conjugation but a transformation? One thing into another. She runs, she ran, she will run again. And I read this and immediately I was like, okay, the prose is so beautiful. So what you can learn from this quote, besides that it's absolutely stunning, is it does give you a glimpse of like what kind of magic to expect here. It tells us that grammar itself is magical. The way you can change the meaning of something by the words that you use to describe it. Conjugation is a transformation of words, and then like using the words to transform other things too. And I love magic systems that use language as a form of power. Ultimately, this story is told in such a classic fairy tale-esque way. There's lots of metaphor, there's some rhyming, there's a lot of whimsy. I will say, being that it's a novella and kind of the like classic fairy tale style of writing, it does start off in a manner where we're being told things about the town and about the characters, like about their personalities and about their wants and desires, because it kind of starts as this like hyper focused vignette, and it's almost like we're looking at it from a bird's eye view. And then after a little bit, once this tale is kind of woven in place for us, the like vignette like dissipates, and then we're actually following the characters in the story. So we're mainly following the older sister, whose name is Hester, but her sister Isabel is like in the periphery as well and part of the story. Like I said before, the story's narrator does tell us about them before we really get to know or see anything like of them in the story. But I think given the nature of the story itself and the fairy tale writing style, that it does kind of work for this. So it does take a little bit to kind of get to know the characters as characters instead of just seeing them from that like pulled back glimpse. Okay, but when we finally start to get to know these characters, Esther definitely takes up the majority of the page time. She is the main character. But I think over the course of this story, we do really get to see and know her for her bravery, how loving she is, that she's kind of adventurous, and she's so caring about the people around her. And Esther's biggest motivation is just like protecting her sister. These sisters are so close and the love between them is so sweet. Unfortunately, I do think that we know like so much less about Isabel, again because it's a novella and it's short, so like a lot of the focus was just on Esther, but I think we still have an understanding of who she is, even though we didn't really get to see her much. You know, we can tell that she's more shy, a little bit more reserved. She looks up to her sister like immensely, and she trusts her sister so much. Again, but I do still wish we got to know Isabel a little bit more, but I mean, I'm gonna keep saying it's a novella. Like there's only so much you can do in the space of a novella, so I feel like what it did do, it did really well as far as letting us in on who these characters characters are, their place in the world, and like what they want out of life and their motivations within like this small little story. Ultimately, this tale is about sisterly love, despite the synopsis mentioning Esther rejecting a suitor and like taking another lover from Faerie. Like, yes, those happen and are a part of the plot, but the main like love in this tale is between Esther and Isabel, and like doing anything in the world like for your family, for your sister. The romance is definitely not the focus in here, but I do think the little romance that we were given was also just like kind of really like whimsical and cute, and I wish we got more. I do wish that we got more because the love interest was so interesting, and unfortunately I feel like we didn't get enough of them on the page. But I mean, they were so intriguing, and I really wanted to like maybe see the romance blossom a little bit more, but that's just because it wasn't the main focus, and a lot of the focus was just this quick little plot and the sisterly love that kind of was entangled throughout all of it. Other than the sisterly love, there is this theme of like the love of music and singing, and also like music as another form of language, which again is power. And the magic system in here is called grammar with a capital G, and the music is like really integral to some of the magic in here. Esther and Isabel are tasked to sing to these willow trees, and I won't tell you why because it's so short. I won't spoil anything, but their family has been in charge of singing to these willow trees for generations. So music is like so integral in who they are as characters, and important to their family, and important to their like little town, Thistleford. There are so many musical references in here. There's even a part of the world that's called the refrain, which if you don't know what a refrain is, it's like basically another way to say like the chorus of a song. Refrain just means like a repeating part of music. I am a huge music lover in real life, and I don't always love it in stories, but I thought The River Had Roots integrated the music with the magic so seamlessly. Another thing was that I could really tell that the author was like loved music, and I could tell that she played instruments just from the way that she spoke about them. As a matter of fact, I recently saw like 2 days ago on Instagram that Amal El-Mohtar and her sister played, I think, the harp and maybe the lute or the violin for the audiobook, like played music to be included in the audiobook. And I was like, oh my god, that is so fun. And I love that I personally like saw the love that the author had for music in the story. I was like, yes, I knew it. I could tell that she was a musician just by the way that she wrote about it and how much love she had for the way that she made music and language their own forms of magic. Overall, I think this story is one that you'll love if you are a true lover of all things like whimsy, fairy tale, folklore, and if you appreciate a very lyrical style of prose. The language in this book is so beautiful. There are riddles and rhymes, there are lutes and harps, there are fae, and they're not like, you know, high fae like fairies, but a very traditional style of fae, I think, from the little glimpses that we've gathered. And above all else, this book has magic, so much magic on every page. Again, there is sisterly love, a little bit of romantic love. The prose in here was also just so beautiful. I honestly felt like I was reading poetry. There were a lot of intentional rhymes in the story, and then there were some internal rhymes, like within one sentence a couple words would rhyme, and I would catch it and be like, ooh, so beautiful. It just felt so natural as well. Like it didn't ever feel out of place within the story. I feel like The River Had Roots was such a love letter to magic, storytelling, poetry, music, and just language in general. I selfishly wish that this was longer. I remember it ended and I was like, okay, but like where's the rest? I wasn't ready to leave. I want more. Hello? The writing itself, I would give a 5 stars, no hesitation, no questions asked. It was so beautiful the way that language and poetry were woven into magic, and it was also woven as a story for our consumption as the reader, and it was just beautiful, like masterfully done, incredible writing. But I think overall I have to like give the story a 4 stars because I just needed a little bit more. And I don't just mean length, I wanted more about the characters. I would have loved more of an explanation about Thistleford's relationship to Faerie, because they are in a sense neighboring each other, but people don't like really travel between the two. And honestly, like I would have just loved to see maybe a little bit more of that lore, or like why there is no travel, and just more scenery in general. I also would have liked more time to kind of build some emotions regarding the antagonist. There is an inciting incident that happens in here, but honestly, like I feel like we didn't get enough time to kind of like build up the tension to it and like stress over it a little bit. It just kind of happens, and then like we, you know, the plot moves forward. But I feel like after it happened, I would have also liked a little bit more falling action. It did kind of resolve like really quickly, in my opinion. Even within the confines of a novella, the like inciting incident happened, and literally by the middle of the next chapter, it was kind of like, okay, here's what we're gonna do to fix it. And there is magic in here, so obviously like things can be done easily with the aid of magic and grammar, but I feel like as a reader, I would have liked to have been like on the edge of my seat just a little bit more. It again, it is very like fairy tale-esque, so I don't expect it to have like spent chapters and chapters and chapters giving us like tension and like this epic huge blowout climax kind of thing. But I do think that it was just a little too quick. But again, the writing was exquisite, so it's not something that really hindered my enjoyment. But after finishing it, it is something where I'm like, oh, like I do kind of wish we got more of this or more of that. But again, like I just enjoyed my time reading what I did get so much because of how beautiful the writing was. It's very quick to read. I read it in 2 sittings and I could not put it down. The 2 times that I did pick it up, I was like, oh my God, I'm so engaged. It's so beautiful. It's just sucking me in. I want to spend so much time in these pages. I'm definitely going to be rereading it. And I feel like it's kind of a very like cozy, nostalgic feeling almost, even though obviously like it just came out. I've never read it before, but I felt nostalgic for it in a way. If you decide to pick up The River Has Roots, please come back and let me know your thoughts. I would love to gush more about the gorgeous writing with people. I can't wait for more people to pick it up so I can see what other people thought of it as well. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far in the video, leave the swan emoji down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!